What inspired you to become a psychotherapist?
I think it started since I was very young. I remember I would always have a curiosity about how people behave, why my friends behave like that, why they cry I was an observator. And I still are. I'm always like to observe people, body language. Okay, maybe I was not doing it in the same way when I was young, but I did it, and I was really young, so I was like, why am I doing this? What's Anyhow, so I just left it. And then I remember at school we had this course of psychology, sociology, biology, and I remember I loved um, these classes. I would be like the first. I would be so excited to do it. And I decided, because I've learned as well what is psychology, and we had this class, I decided to go and study psychology. So I left my country, which is Greece, as you know, and I moved to UK to do all my training there. So I studied psychology, and then continued my education journey, let's say, and I did postgraduate degrees in applied psychology. And then I work as an assistant psychologist in different psychiatric clinics. And still there was something there I was not sure. And because I could hear all my clients and I would understand that a lot of, what we are, what we do comes from our childhood and our development, I decided to do another postgraduate degree in child psychology and child development. And I did that. And then I worked with adolescent kids and autistic children. Still, there was something missing. So I continued. And then I went into a counseling diploma, it was. And this is where everything clicked, because, when you do these counseling courses, they make you do role plays. So, for example, I'm going to be the therapist and my colleagues are going to be the clients and vice versa. So I've started observing through these role plays that a lot of my colleagues at that time, they would bring, because the idea is you bring personal issues when you do the role play. So a lot of my colleagues would bring a lot about their relation with their partners issues, with their friendships, with their families. And then I was like, what's happening? Everybody started talking about the relationships to me. And then I was just becoming more aware. And my friends would bring a lot about the relationships. My family, something around my own relationships at the time that this was happening. So I said, that's it. Boom. That's where I want to specialize, relationships. And I realized this is what I was always fascinated about. It was about human connection, human responsibility, the human, how they connect, about, the humanistic aspect of of who we are and everything. So, and then I decided, just like that, I'm going to specialize in relationship psychotherapy. And when something is right, and when is right, in magic way, everything just flows. There's no challenge. So the moment I decided that, everything just flow, and I found the right place to do my internship, they accepted me immediately through the interview to get into my course. So I did a 3-year psychotherapy training, relationship psychotherapy training, and then everything just got into that. And I started working as a psychotherapist with couples, families, individuals. Um, and this is where I still doing, and I'm excited to keep doing now, and guide people and help them, especially to one of the concepts I think we're going to discuss about, self-love, um, which is very close to my heart, this concept, because I think it's at the root of everything.
Yes, absolutely. And a lot of people misunderstand what self love really is, or how you actually start loving yourself, or what the process is. And I'm sure through all your extensive work and expertise, you have a very refined view on what self love is that I was hoping you would share with us.
It's like a tree, and there are different branches, of self-love. So with self-love comes self-acceptance, comes self-responsibility, comes self-compassion. So comes self-expression, self-empowerment, so many different things that, self-trust. And for me, self-love is being able to be aware of these other branches of that tree and understand where you are weak. Somewhere you are strong, somewhere you are weak, and try to to see where you're weak and work through that with love and compassion. I think a misconception a lot of people have about self love is that it is selfish. I have clients that they say, I tell them a lot about self-care and self-love. I'm like, but I can't, I cannot give myself time because I have to take care of my kids. I have to care of my family. I have no time. And I'm like, everything starts with you. If you always, you don't love yourself, like in terms of giving time to yourself, space to yourself, looking after your own needs, and just for the others or a little bit for yourself, and I've seen it in my clients, you can end up in a vicious cycle where, you start doing things out of resentment and not from your heart and from joy. And that will have an effect through your relationships with other people, because resentment, it's one of the, I think, it's a huge aspect of where everything starts and connection stops. It's about, understanding that there's no point doing that because the end result will not be what you want. Something I really like is when you go to the airplane and they say, you have to put your oxygen masks, and they say specifically, first you put it yourself and then to your child. There's a reason, isn't it? Because if you're not well, you're not going to be able to help your child. So most of all, that's how I see self-love. Put that oxygen masks of self-love to you. Give yourself nurturing talk. Give yourself compassion. Give yourself um, time for yourself. Self-reflection. Self-love cannot be created if there's not self-reflection. To have self-reflection, you need time. I know a lot of people say, but it's impossible. I have no time. Everything is about a choice. Our whole life is depending on a choice we have, on our choices and our responsibilities. So self-love can be a choice that you choose every day. And it doesn't have to be long. Just when you wake up, just create this self-reflection, where do I go today? What would I like to do? What is my need for today? How can I give something good to myself? There are many different ways for practicing self-love, but going back, that it's not selfish, it's essential, I would say, because I think with no self-love, there are not all these other, remember I was talking about this tree and the branches, there are not the other aspects which are equally important, which is, how to accept yourself and to work on your self-esteem and your self-expression of who you are and your self-validation. But it all comes to be kind to yourself. I think that's where it comes to self-love.
The level of self love will always depend on the level of self care you apply to yourself. And I had to learn that through various years of uncovering certain things. As a single mom, you always, or that was my perception, or that's how I was brought up. A mom has to kind of give herself up for the kids. That's what my mom did. And I saw the results of it. Right now, I see the results of it. And when I understood that I was heading in the same direction like my mom, I decided to stop. And even though it was really hard for me to find a way, to find a balance, because everything was on me, the whole responsibility, right? The whole ship was dependent on me, how I perform, right, on a daily and nightly basis, especially when kids are small. So I had to realize that if I don't get enough sleep, especially when the kid is older, and if I don't establish boundaries, even with the small child, if I don't establish values and I hold on to them like a rock, right? Not being wishy-washy, not being soft, not being too kind, because women or mothers tend to be
Mhm.
going into that direction. Oh, he's crying or she's crying. Oh, she hurt herself. So let's give her a sweet, and then everything's fine and I will do it for you. Like these all kinds of things that mothers tend to do that I didn't have the privilege, I would say, to go into, because I saw the result, the immediate result that would come from that, not taking care of myself. And that was a brutal journey for me to understand that not only was it hurting myself, not taking care of myself, but it was also hurting my kids. because they would trample on my boundaries. They would dismiss my values. They would dismiss my boundaries if I let it happen, right? If I didn't care or take care of myself. And I was not a good role model the very first years because I thought giving up my whole existence just for the survival of my kids is, I'm a heroic mother if I do that. But this is such a huge lie. And it is so tremendously important that women stop doing that. Mothers stop doing that. When the kid is small and you are still breastfeeding, it's absolutely understandable that you have to make sacrifices. I do understand that. And I would do it a million times again, for the sake of the health of the child, because only breastfeeding will serve that purpose. No other substitute, milk or formula, will do the same job. So I was willing to do that for 1.5 years for each child. I was like really like an iron woman in that. Like that was really important for me. But after that, you kind of have to move. And I see that all the time, that women miss the transition time. Mothers miss the transition time when they need to start taking care more of themselves, apply more self-care to themselves, and transition more to different roles, right? We as women, we have different roles. And when you become a mother, you all of a sudden think you're only a mother, but that's not it. You have to transition into a coach when the child is around 3 years old, 3 to 6. You have to evolve into that role, because otherwise you will dismiss your own needs. You have to later on transition into a different role, right? To be, if you have a son, for example, into a sparring partner. You cannot treat your son the same way like you treat your daughter. That's not going to work. That he will not learn the lessons that he needs to learn to become a man, right? And if you have a husband, he might take care of that. I don't have that privilege. So I had to learn different lessons compared to women who may have a partner who take on that masculine role, right? So there was also a challenge when it comes to self-care and self-love in my particular situation. And I think we need to also talk about what actually happens when you lack self-love, because people might dismiss it. Oh, love, who needs that, right? Why do I need to take care of myself? I'm okay, I'm fine. I have all the energy that I need during the day. I like myself enough, right? People could easily dismiss it, but let's talk about the consequences. If you lack self-love, what will happen?
In the society we are living, I see it a lot. A lot of people, just, it's almost like some people, it's like robots, they're very comfortable in their life they're living. And, you have a job, you get some money, you do stuff, you have a house, but it's so much more, we have to understand. And lack of self-love, it will come at some point. It will come and knock on somebody's door, even if it doesn't matter how much you're ignoring it. Knock the door on someone, either through an illness or through a massive existential crisis, because we as human beings, we are not just a physical body, a mental body. I do think, and we also have a spiritual part, a soul part that, it's so important that we never think about. And that part, it's connected to that self-love. So when you ignore it, it will come out. But when somebody's lack self-love, you can see them in their life. For example, they will always feel dependent on other people's validation. And that means that everything they do doesn't come from who they are, their own sense of the truth, but it will come out of what everybody else expects from them, being under constraints of other people's expectations and ideals and values. I think this is a trap that at some point will keep somebody trapped into that and never able to learn who they really are. A lot of people, a lot of my clients, they go through anxiety and depression, and it always, the base of that is the lack of self-love, because they never love themselves. They always think that they're not worthy, they're not good enough. They tend to compare themselves with others. I like to work with metaphors. And I think when you don't have self-love and self-respect, It's almost like you are a boat without an anchor, a boat that it's aimlessly going through the waves without an anchor, because and lost into that. We all have, as human beings, that internal, I call compass, which is our intuition. When you don't love yourself, you're not connected to that internal compass. So you are always going with not a direction, without a vision, without a goal, and you feel lost. And self love, as well, for me, is not something that you have to achieve. Like, it's not a goal. You know, some people say, when I lose this weight or when I achieve this goal, then I will start loving myself more. This cannot happen. This is not something that it has to happen to love yourself. It's a constant process. It's a, as I said, an everyday choice. It's a journey. I think this is another misconception. They wait to love themselves, to look after themselves, to give time to yourselves until a month when they achieve that, when they do that. It's a journey. So in that journey, the only person you have next to you every day, talking to, pushing you, taking you, it's yourself. So it's a choice how you're going to take care of that part of you, how you're going to talk to that part of you, how you're going to nurturing that part of you, how you're going to stay with that part of you and check, are you happy? Are your needs met or not? How are you going to change your life? Are you happy staying in that life? And if you are, that's okay, but that's your choice and that's your responsibility, not just okay, I'm a victim, you know. Because when you love yourself, you are responsible of everything. There's no victimization. And I think that's powerful, with because when you are not victim of your circumstances, this is where you're so much powerful to change things. And I'm sure you experienced that, from what you said, from your experiences.
Absolutely. I love that you mentioned that people oftentimes think, oh, once I lose 30 pounds, especially for women, that's a constant, like losing weight or having the perfect body, then I will love myself. I think it's the other way around. When you start loving yourself, you will make better choices. You will make choices that will serve your body. You will start to seek knowledge and understanding and wisdom that will serve your health, your body. And you will not do these crash diets, because you can lose 30 pounds easily with any of the methods that are out there online, right? That you can find. Hands down, everything works, right? If you do it
Mhm.
hard enough, consistently enough. But the truth is, your health will always be the price that you will pay, depending on how bad that type of dieting was that you chose for you, depending on what kind of type you are, body type, and what have you. So I think when you start truly loving and understanding yourself, and I think love needs to comes second. I think understanding or seeking understanding comes first. You need to have the willingness to understand yourself without judging yourself. And then you will start loving yourself because you understand yourself. You have the full capacity to know every corner of your soul, to know every corner of your body, right? If you are, for example, if you are too shameful to look at your body, right, you will not
I was.
love your body, right? And this
Mhm.
is a crucial part for many, many women, especially those who have already kids, who have the baby bum, you know, who are ashamed of it because maybe it didn't retract or grow back or what have you. And you have all the pregnancy lines and what have you. This is so crucial to start understanding your body on all levels. Like you said, there are so many levels, like the physical level, the emotional level, the spiritual level. And I think once you do that, the choices part is the crucial one. And I love that you said that you pointed this out, because everything is a choice, as you said in the beginning. And the choices will really create your life. And when you make choices based on self-hate, self-punishment, self-hurt, right?
Mhm.
You will make mistakes that you will label as mistakes. Like nobody else can label anything that you do in life as a mistake. Only you can, because only
Mhm.
you have the full spectrum view perspective on your entire being. Nobody else has, right? Except maybe your psychotherapist who has worked with you for a couple of years. she or he may know you very well. But other than that, and so it's really important to make sure that you make the choices that will make you feel fulfilled, so that in the beginning you talked about the tree, so that you open yourself up to the possibility of growing those branches one by one, right? Because it's, and you said it as well, it's a process.
It's not an easy process. Um, but what easy, it's really,
Yeah,
you
you're
know,
right.
nice. Whatever is a challenge, that's where you learn, that's where you grow. When you stay in a comfort place where it's easy, you remain there, stagnant. And we are made for evolving. All human beings, we are made of evolving. If we don't, it's because we 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 value fear. We have so much fear that we don't allow ourselves to do that. But it's true, it is not easy, and it takes some courage and willingness and self-acceptance to do that. But you're right about the body thing. I think you expressed it very well. uh because it's true, like when you're saying that there are a lot of women, they try, they push, they do all this um diets that exhaust them. It's because it's not a body. And it's, if you think about it, I like when people say it's our temple. It is.
Mm.
Our body is our temple. It's what we have to take care a lot. And, if we don't connect with it and we just push it, it's like you have something and you push them and you push them, they're going to stop responding to anything if you push them. So it's also, for me, the word connection is massive. Connection is everything. How we connect with other people, how we connect with ourselves, with our bodies. Connection is a massive word. So once we're able to connect, not only to our feelings, to our thoughts, to the people around us, to our environment, to everything, to every single moment, then we will always be disconnected in a way from our reality. And I think people start lately, especially after COVID, to start yearning that connection more and more. That's what I've been witnessing through my work, and I'm really happy to see that. The idea of connection, not only to ourselves and to others, but to something bigger, and to the meaning of life. It's coming more closer to people's heart, and I'm happy to see that.
What I learned through the years is that there's an expression: you can only love someone as deep as you love yourself. And I never understood what it means, because I was a victim without knowing it, that I was one, and I was keeping myself in that box for the longest time of my life. And I didn't take responsibility of my choices and of the things that I surrounded myself with, especially people. And now we're moving more into the relationship space, right? How we relate to others and how that is dependent on the level of self-love that we apply. And it has a lot of to do with how we take responsibility for the choices that we make or the people that we let into our lives. I was only able to really understand that phrase once I had kids and had to learn to take care of myself. Otherwise, this whole ship, this whole family would fall apart quite literally. And that happened around the time when my kids were very young, until they were 5, around that time, because everything was dependent on me. And I had to take care of every single area, not only as a woman, but also as a man. I had to learn both roles, whether I wanted or not. I saw that this was a necessity. So for me, it was kind of I had no time. I felt like there is a time pressure on me to deliver, to perform, to be twice as fast as women who are married, because the school also put a lot of pressure on that, right? How I perform and that I deliver the same results like married couples. That was a really rough experience for me. But what it did was actually, and I'm really glad it happened how it happened, because it forced me brutally into facing the fact that I was absolutely incapable of loving myself. Absolutely, there was no love. I was a people pleaser, 100%. I would only do things to please other people. not because I wanted to do something good to them, but because I wanted to be loved and I didn't want to hurt them, right? Their safety and health was my number one, was on my pedestal. And I was below that. I was under that pedestal. And I was so used to that position that I allowed certain things to happen. So the responsibility wasn't there. The choices were horrible that I made after we moved to Germany. And I don't blame myself for making those choices because it comes with understanding what kind of a environment I was put in that I had no choice over. So I understand myself so much that I don't judge myself anymore, right? That is the level of understanding that I had to reach to really start loving myself on the deepest level so that I could really deliver the type of love that my children needed and deserved to really flourish. I'm not saying I'm an angel or I'm perfect. I make mistakes every day because being a mother is new every day because your kids are growing, they are evolving. And especially with the first one, it's always new, it's always fresh, right? So we all make a ton of mistakes. But what it allows me to think in that manner is, first of all, I take 100% responsibility of every single thought that I have in my mind, of every single action that I do every single day, that I face all my mistakes that I do, and that I'm able to communicate that. Because a relationship really lives from the level of communication that you are able to put on the table, right? You can be conscious and all smart in your head, but if you're not able to communicate that through your body language, but also through your mouth and your words, like your family will not benefit. All your relationships, as you said, will crumble because your ability is low when it comes to communication. And the flourishing part of relationships really lies in the second level, which is the communication. And I would love to know how you see that part when it comes to now relating to other people. What you see, what tendencies you see in your clients, what you have observed when it comes to communication.
You said something about responsibility there, isn't it? And I think self-responsibility, taking responsibility of yourself, it can expand a lot in different ways in a relationship. So, you said there that you were people's pleaser and you would do everything and you allowed that. So this is the part where we all have within our relationships the emotional responsibility, which is realizing that once we realize that we are responsible for our emotions so that people don't make us how they feel, we allow them to make us feel like that. Okay, they can trigger stuff in us, but at the same time, we're still responsible to understand these emotional triggers and work into them. So I think it's important to take responsibility about our emotions, communication responsibility, exactly as you said, to be honest, to not be afraid to say what you are. To what I like to say to my clients is to respond and not react. It's so important. A lot of people just react. And why that happens? Because they don't take responsibility to listen. It's all about who's going to blame who first. And it's like that I call it the game of tit for tat, No, there's no communication where there's tit for tat. It's about I take responsibility for who I am. I listen what you have to say. I respect you, therefore. And then it all. So yes, communication responsibility is huge. And then you have so many other responsibilities to take, like, sexual responsibility. So it's not just communication is one, but it has also branches of how you communicate your emotions and how you deal with them, how you communicate what your sexual needs are, what you like, what you don't like, what your personal boundaries into that, your financial responsibility, how much money you want to give to the table in the family or how much you want to work. Trust, how you trust responsibility, how you're going to respect each other's boundaries, values. So I think all these responsibilities, having communication, as you said, and then all the other things of around it's massive. But why I bring responsibility, I think, is because it's so important, because when somebody takes responsibility of who they are, of their own behavior, of how they, they act, what they say, then it's easier for resolving conflicts, because possibly there is no blame, there is more understanding, there is more listening. And I've seen that people who do take responsibility by looking inwards and by, by what they say, they are more eager to work on the relationship and make amends. So I think these are important issues. But once you're responsible, then your communication is completely different, I think, because it doesn't come for a place of defense or blame or insecurity. It comes from a place where I know what I do wrong or right. And, I'm going to say, you're not going to shout to be listened. You're going to support your position, and you're going to communicate in a much different and more mature way, in a different energy. I think that's what really matters. Responsibility. I love this word. I think it's so important in everything, intention and responsibility for me are very good words, because you need both to navigate life and relationships and yourself and everything.
I find it important that you mention intention. And let's focus on women because that's who I know best, I think. I think most women run without intention until they are around 20, 30 years old. Ever since we are small and little kids, at least in the Western world where everything is so structured and you have kind of a plan what you are going to do, you start going to school and everything is planned out for you. So my feeling is that because everything is so planned out, people don't take the time to think about intention at all because they already know what's going to happen. I will go to school, I will make my final exam, then I'm going to study, then this and that, and I will have my kids, I will marry, preferably before I have kids. And then I will have my house, my car, my job. Maybe I will climb the career ladder, maybe not. Maybe I will stay at home mom, right? Everything is kind of planned out. So my impression is that intention is not even on their plan or on their radar. But once you start making choices again without intention, I would love to know what you see will happen.
Without intention, you don't really know why you're doing what you're doing. Intention, it's about why. The idea of I know what is my intention is because you know the reason you're doing what you're doing. You are where you are with the person you are with the friends you are. Otherwise, if you don't know, then what's the reason? Then you are not connected, then you are not aware, then you're just aimlessly and disconnected, living in a reality where everything is just done rather than intended by you to be done. Now, somebody will say, yes, but we do everything we do. It's because we have goals. Okay, but again, the intention is not, I want to do this degree, and then you do it. And its intention is not in just big goals, it's in every day, because I believe, and I've seen it, we are not, change is constant in everything in this life. And within us, we change every day as human beings and we don't even realize. So if your intention was that one day to do that or to achieve something, it doesn't mean that it has to be the same after a year, after months, because you have changed, you haven't even realized. So it's always good to check. I think it's not only for big goals. In every day when you wake up, I think it's important to say, okay, what is my intention for today? What would I like to achieve today? Because you see, our mind is so powerful, and it's, we think that it controls us, but it doesn't. If we realize how it works, it's all neurons and programs and neuroplasticity. Is like one idea of the brain, that you can change the habits and it can adapt to it. That's what is neuroplasticity. So the idea is that, yes, when we wake up and I say, what we want to achieve, what is our intention? Because once you are clear and aware, say every day what you want to achieve, how you want your day to be, maybe it's not going to be completely as you want, but it's not going to be so far from it because you already trained your brain to know what to expect. You train yourself about something. And no matter what, you're going to be able to have most of these things. I mean, I urge my clients to do that as an experiment when they wake up. And no matter what, it gives you a sense of clarity once you wake up. And if you do that every day for little goals and then for bigger goals, it always gives you a bigger clarity when you have intention and being more connected to the things you do rather than just being there and not knowing, and then one day wake up and say, wow, this is not what I want. This is not what fits me. Because the intention also comes from self-questioning, isn't it? So that's why I think is important, intention and responsibility, because we are responsible to self-reflect. We are responsible to ask questions within ourselves. What are intentions of the day? Why we are doing what we're doing? Are we happy where we are? How we can change things? Not being on the victim also. Intention takes you out of that victim. So everything is so linked, isn't it? If you just think about it.
Intention really takes out the probability of you becoming a victim ever in your life.
Mm-hmm.
And what I think is missing most of the time, at least for me, for a very long time, was the fact that I had goals. I always had goals, big and small and what have you, right? I was a very driven person ever since I was a child. But I realized very soon that this is not enough. Intention is not the same as having goals, even though intention is kind of a future dip into the water, But what helped me really to create a more fulfilling life is seeing intention as a landscape, if you will, an entire environment, an ecosystem, because your physical body will be nourished by certain things like food and relationship with other people, so everything that's on the outside. And if you always have only intentions for the outside world where you expect applause or to be praised for XYZ, you will make certain intentions only in that space, only in that type of environment. But I think what will truly fulfill you on deep level, where you can really also mirror that and nourish other people with your enlightenment, let's say, is when you actually understand intention as a multi-level thing, right? Project, if you will. It's not only about the physical intention that you have for what needs to happen in the physical realm, but also setting the intention, what do you want to happen on an emotional level? For example, I think that's crucial for women. I think that's crucial for mothers who deal with children every day. How do you want to have it today emotionally? What do you want to happen? How do you want your kids to feel today? And then you will make very different choices compared to choices that you would make that would bring you applause, right? From your husband, from your partner, from your family, from your friends, right? You will make different choices, right? And also, it's not only the emotional level, but also the spiritual, the intellectual level. I feel this is also something that many women, especially when they have kids, they lose that, the ability to be intellectual if they were before having kids, right? And that was me. I was like, I existed only in my head. There was no connection, no big connection to my body, so to speak. I loved this space, right? Working in that space. Knowledge and wisdom and collection of all of these concepts. And this is also important to not lose track of that. No matter do you have kids, do you not have kids, to allow yourself to remain in that space and to feed your intellect, right? And that will, how much will your kids really benefit from your intellect if you keep feeding it, even though you have to take care of them, right? Even though you have a 9-month-old at home, right? And you think that's your only job to just breastfeed, No, it's not. Like, you will have time. Thank God you will have time when the baby's sleeping, for example, to nourish your different levels of life where you can set an intention. And it is also the soul nourishment where you can also set intentions. How do you want to be in that instance or in that moment? And how do you want to connect with yourself on that day? I'm not saying I'm perfect at doing this, but it certainly helped me to dissect this in these different levels to realize that I am never feeling fulfilled when I only think about intention in the physical world, or to please other people, or to do things that others would declare as heroic or brave or courageous or beautiful or amazing, right? I don't live by that. I don't live by the applause that I get from other people. I live by the applause that I give myself, because I can only be truly proud of myself when I do things that fulfill me on the deepest levels. And so that can only happen if I have intention on all levels.
On the deeper level, that's what I like, yeah, like you said, because people can be fulfilled, but are they on a deeper level? Is their life what they truly desire? You know,
And we can also desire false things. Let's talk about
all
that.
things.
How can we distinguish from the desires that we sometimes have, that the ego is behind that? And I know as a psychotherapist, you know a lot about that. And
Yes.
from the desires that our soul, our intuition calls us to run towards.
And also the desires we had a year ago may not be the same desires we have today. That's another thing. It doesn't mean that what we desire, that's what it is. As I said, we're always evolving. I mean, I always ask, even everybody, like, just look at yourself. Think, because we never do that. I do to my friends, to my clients, myself. Think, how were I? Where was I a year ago or 2 months ago? And just looking back, you do realize that you are not the same person. There's still a small change that happens to you, even not externally, but something has changed. The way you think, some things you don't care anymore, something you care. It's very interesting. Just take that time to reflect. But listening to you and what you're saying, and when you were talking about the mothers that they breastfeed and then they need time. It's like I would easily have in my mind a lot of people saying, yes, but I don't have time when the baby sleeps because I'm tired and I don't have time to do that and I need to sleep. And I can hear that, but I'm going back to that choice. There's no other way. We are responsible. That's what it is. And no matter how many excuses we make, it's our own excuse and that's our choice. And let's be okay with that, not complain. There's no other way, because the things we really want, we do them. And why? Because we chose that, you know? And I'm 100%, I see people when they want to do something, they will do it, no matter how tired, no matter how exhausted, they will go out there and do it. Well, it's the same. They do take a choice for something they really want. So it's easy to take the victim position and blame all the circumstances and everything, but and also the more I say I feel tired and I can't, the more I will feel tired again. It's a choice, you know um and you know what, at the same time, I don't judge people for being like that, because that's where they are, their journey, or that's what they're okay to be. So I'm not one to judge, and I respect everybody's journey and everybody's choices. But if you come to me with wanting to change, wanting to improve, wanting to have a better, more fulfilling life, then you have to take the responsibility of changing some stuff. Not immediately, but at some point, the responsibility will come. So, wanting to say in a few words, and then I lost track there, that, I don't judge people who are there as well. And maybe take that victim role. Maybe it is too hard for them and they're not ready to move forward. And that's okay, but being aware
Yes.
that there's another way, it's always nice and more powerful.
And everyone will have their unique path. Also, it's also not to say that you have to do right, you have to feed yourself on all those levels now, right? Otherwise you are not worthy of anything. It's like
Yeah.
more like a recommendation, more like a door that you can choose if you desire that type of growth. And I see a lot of defensiveness around that, which also shows a little bit of emotional insecurity, if you will, like there is not a lot of emotional maturity when a person comes in and says he or she wants to grow in XYZ area, but then when you uncover their excuses, right, and you're just laying them out, right, they become very defensive. Now that's also a level that you can reach by just sitting with it, right? Your defensiveness. Okay, why am I defensive about this, right? I truly desire to grow, but why do I feel so struck, almost like by a lightning, that those things, those excuses tear me almost apart? Like you can sit with that, right? You can observe yourself and just realize that you have that side on you, that you try to keep yourself safe. Maybe that's a self-preserving mechanism in yourself, right? Because you had to fight all your life, you had to protect yourself all your life, so you will tend to be defensive in every area of your life. That was at least a very prolific truth for myself in most of my years. I was very defensive. No matter what I heard, no matter what people said about me, it would always result in defensiveness. No, that's not me. That's not true. What BS, you know? I would always push it away because I had to protect myself all my life. There was no protector for me out there. So I learned to like throw them all away. Don't come close to me, so to speak, right? But once you actually allow yourself to sit with that, and please find a safe space before you do, because only
Mhm.
then you will kind of have the opportunity to really truly open up to yourself and be absolutely and brutally honest with yourself that you do that. And then you will come to all the realizations of how you might get rid of your defensiveness, or how you can show up more mature in your emotional reaction towards certain things, especially if it's a person that you believe you trust. Like, for example, you go to a psychotherapist, right, and they uncover all your excuses. Then it's really, really good if you sit with yourself with that first before you
Mm.
give that responsibility to someone else, right? To sit with it, because you need to have the ability to carry all your baggage through the next door.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes not that easy because I
It
think
isn't.
you need some guidance, you know. Reaching out for a therapist can be helpful in terms of guiding you how to do that. But it doesn't mean if somebody cannot do that, that they cannot do it themselves slowly by,
Yeah.
finding time to stay with themselves, read things, talk. Because what really happens is when you say defense, what does it mean? That you're afraid of being vulnerable, of being seen. So if you're afraid of being seen, that means that you haven't seen, accepted who you are.
Yeah.
And that's the power of therapy. You go there and you might think it's not going to work, but what you're doing is you're actually allowing to be seen by someone you don't know, and that's delving into the deep immediately. But that's why we say you have to have a great relationship with your therapist where you can trust. Carl Rogers was a psychologist, human psychology, and he is the father, is say, of person-centered therapy. It's called client-centered therapy. So, and he was talking about the therapy, the unconditional positive regard. The curious paradox is that when I accept myself just I am, then I'm able to change. He believed that why therapy works is because the client is provided by this, secure, non-judgmental environment when they can start opening up and seeing themselves with no feeling judged or being contained. And also the therapist not to be there to fix them, but just to equally be there to guide them. But I like that saying because it says if there's no self-acceptance, change cannot come. So perhaps as well, people haven't accepted themselves so as to start changing. But I think once you go to therapy, you already have accepted that there's something you want to change. So there's already a step forward that you're ready to change. That's why I think that shows that there is, or okay, maybe you don't go to therapy. When you start looking for books, how can I change something in my life doesn't work? How can I, make more connected relationships, whatever? You're already a step forward in accepting that you need help, that you need to change something, and that's the beginning. So I just wanted to bring that because I think that's a really nice, as he says, paradox, because it's a paradox because, when you think, a lot of people think I've accepted myself. I'm okay. No, because that means that if you accept yourself, that means you also understand that you are also evolving. That means you're also going to keep growing and you're going to keep wanting to grow and look opportunities for self-growth. So nothing is stagnant, nothing stays as it is, and the self doesn't. So self-acceptance doesn't. This doesn't make sense what I'm saying. That's why it's a
Yes,
paradox. And I like that Carl Rogers wrote it like that.
it almost seems like many people believe once I reach, let's say, self acceptance, it's like in my toolbox. I can get it out anytime, right? I don't need to work on that, so to speak, because it's ready in my toolbox. But I
Mhm.
think it's, as you said, it's a process. And every day we will have situations where we need to adjust that kind of self acceptance that we had before onto that new situation, onto that new character line that we maybe have developed right over time. I think it's always kind of an adjustment, just like, let's say with the piano, you get your new piano and it's already tuned, right? You can play, you can enjoy yourself, right? But it will detune itself with time. So you will always have to go in and set a lot of money aside to do that, to tune your piano again so that you can enjoy that, so that you can live in that self acceptance. You can fill the room and the space with your self acceptance and be a role model, for example, for other people, whether it's your partner, your kids, your friends, your family, right? I think in the end, it always goes into that direction. How can you serve other people through who you are? And that's the thing that we talked at the beginning with self love and self care. Do you do self love and self care for your own narcissistic good? Because that's one side I feel. Or are you doing it to be a better servant? And many people will hate that word. I don't want to be a slave. I don't want to serve nobody. I'm a free person, I'm a queen, what have you. Like all this talk that you can hear outside in the online world, right? Between women, between men. But when you truly think about that, your own fulfillment can only come from your self acceptance and everything that we've talked about today, but also seeing other people experience the same, how you can use your gifts to nourish other people. For me personally, that's the greatest buckets of fulfillment that I can serve or give or,
Yeah.
present.
Just to say something there, you said that, about the narcissistic, egotistic self-love. This kind of love can never be of service of others. And people, and these are indeed is the self-love because it depends on the egotistic, narcissistic energy, which is only for draining others, for taking from others, for not respecting other people. So this is not self-love. This is a different kind of ego love. But the genuine self love, the love which is truly out of compassion and self care, this can be service of others, not in terms, as you said, it comes by itself that you want to help others or just inspire others. You don't have to do things. Sometimes when you are truly loving yourself and you model that through your life, you help others just by inspiring them. You know, people think, as you said, I don't want to serve others. I don't, what is self-love? This is not about service. When you genuinely love yourself, because it means that you have created a perspective about yourself, about your values, about how you see the world. So even if you meet somebody, a stranger, and you have a conversation and you say some of the things you believe, you instantly, at that point, you have helped the person. You didn't serve, you didn't do a specific service. It was just a moment when you expressed one of your own opinions and beliefs, and you helped that person there. So automatically you were service of others, of someone.
I would really love to hear one or two client stories if you are allowed to share that. where a client transformed in a way that impacted you the most, and why?
All my client stories impact me in some way or another. Not impact me, but impact me on the way that I'm so proud of them for the even if we didn't end all the sessions, no matter what they came or where they stopped or how they everything is a success story for me, even for reaching out for me, for honoring me, to be part of their life story, and that's impact in itself. How other how my clients honor me. I see it as an honor because if you think about it, they ask me to be a co-traveler in their life challenges at this point of their lives, and I see it as a huge honor. In a general note, and obviously I don't want to go delve deep into it because I do have the confidentiality, and
Yes.
obviously I'm going to change a little bit the story, but and I'm going to make it more general. So but there has been a client of mine that she reached out for me, and she wouldn't talk in the therapy. She was very closed off. She was so afraid to be vulnerable, and we did work a lot. She opened up after some time, and it was all about being in a relationship with her husband, which he was a really nice person, you know, and they had a beautiful family and two kids, and everything was perfect. And sometimes it's very difficult to let go of something where there's not an issue to break or to go out with. It's easy to say this person treats me bad or abuses me and I'm going, but it's very difficult to be in a relationship when somebody really loves you, takes care of you, is there for you, and you have a family, and you just you still feel that you're not feeling fulfilled. There's something missing. So, and it was this woman that I saw coming out of a fearful position, um to become, like, how do you say, how is this, the butterfly, how do you call it before,
The
when it's
cocoon.
the cocoon? Yeah, well, she was in a cocoon, and she was very protective and very comfortable, and okay with everything how it was, in her silver cocoon. But it was incredibly beautiful to see through our work together how she actually did transform into that butterfly, where she was able to take responsibility of herself and her choices, of not feeling guilty of hurting other people, of taking responsibility to create a life that maybe was not what everybody else expected out of her, to take ownership of what freedom means to her and how she wants to live her life. And for me, that was an incredible piece of work, to see somebody being transformed in this way. A lot of my clients, and I'm not saying it because I'm a super wow therapist. I never see myself like that, because I truly believe all the work is on the person and how much they want to invest on themselves and change. All I do is the facilitator, is the guiding force, as I said, that I'm there. But for me, it was this story, perhaps, that because it was so different how she entered to how she left therapy, that the transformation was so big, and it wasn't an easy one because of her external circumstances, that it was an inspiration. It was an inspiration to see somebody taking such courage and responsibility to just create a life they really want, no matter how hard it is. Not having the excuses, or because I have clients who are not able to do that, but I'm not judging.
So
And the impact,
beautiful.
I guess, to me was to always, always be true, to never be afraid, always be empowered to live the life you want. And maybe the impact was, at that time I had this, now that we're talking about that client, maybe it did give me the inspiration that I had to be transformed much more and much more. The butterfly effect, as I call it. I love to see it in my work. Different butterfly effect of the known one, it's just the name I gave for sometimes for my therapy cases, butterfly effect, like how they become butterflies out of being the cocoon of their own uh, self-hate, you know, hiding, and all of these stories. Because I think everything comes back to the self. Everybody comes to me because they want to work on the relationships, but always comes back to the relationship with yourself. Takes you back to how you grew up, the relationship with your parents. It's all about us. It's all about inside, how we relate to us. And it all starts when we are young children. Everything starts from there, because when we are young, until the age of 7, they say, or 8, we are completely blank state. This is where we learn all the programs, everything just they're stored for us. And then we forget and we start living under these programs. So it's about how we're gonna take out these programs, look at them, start eliminating or replacing them with new ones according to who we're becoming, and creating a life we want. As I said, it's not an easy process, but it is a process that if we take choice to look into it, it can really liberate us. With help, support, it's easier, but if somebody does not want that, I think it's possible everyone to do it themselves.
What I love the most is that you say that every of your clients is a success story, because
Mm.
it will take for some people not so much courage and not so much time or effort or even money to reach out to a therapist, for example, and to really open up about something that they want to really improve or grow in certain areas. And for other people, it will be enormously hard, depending on, as you said, how we were raised. If, for example,
Mhm.
in a household, you've been told that everything that happens in the family is a secret, then you
Mm.
will not feel really inspired to reach out to a therapist like, oh, that's totally normal. I just go to a therapist if I have a problem, right? There are people who are so damaged, I would say, by this single act of a parent or parents, that they lock the children out from the possibility of ever getting help. And so they
Mm.
live with their problems all their lives, and they never find the courage and the strength to actually reach out, because they have been brought up in a way that they believe they have to solve every problem themselves, if that's what they have been taught or they had to do all their lives. And I don't know the numbers, if that is the case for the majority of people or girls or women, but I feel there is a significant number that lives that type of reality. And this is one of the reasons why therapy and coaching is not considered normal, still not normal. And people judge a lot about other people who go to therapy. Oh, something must be wrong with you, right? What's wrong with you, right? What do you need to fix? Right? They take distance from you, right? In certain countries, it's even more prevalent than in other countries, right? I think in the US it is more accepted than in other countries that are more traditional. I'm thinking about Muslim countries, for example, where therapy is not something that you would go towards, because family matters are oftentimes resolved within the family with oftentimes measures that we would call inhumane, right? And we will not go into that. That's for another
But
interview.
yeah, that's another one. But just to get you there, can you imagine when families deal with the problems? How is a problem deal when all the bias of families and all the programs you want to go out is are actually there to help you? But you're right. This is like a completely different topic to go to. But yes, in terms of success story, as you said, yes, I do see all my story cases as a success just by taking the courage to reach out, no matter where it goes, and takes them.